Hi, welcome back to the channel. My name is Dave Smith, Gutenberg core team member and full-time WordPress contributor. And in this video, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the navigation editor project. Now, those of you who've been following the channel for a bit will know that as of WordPress 5.9, for block themes, the way you manage menus has now changed. Gone is the menus screen from under appearance, and now you manage your menus via the editor and via the navigation block in particular. But running alongside this endeavour of a navigation block was the navigation editor, and we can have a look at that now. So if you go to the Gutenberg plugin, enable the plugin, and then go to this area here, you can go under experiments, and then you can enable the navigation screen experiment. And we'll do that now. And now we have this new item, Navigation Beta. And if I click on it, we see this UI that looks like it allows you to manage menus. And sure enough, it does to an extent, although it is currently not being worked on and thus possibly a little bit broken. Now, what's going on with the project? Is it stale? Is it completely defunct? Are we throwing it out? Well, it's a big question and it's being discussed right now. So let me give you a bit of background about the Navigation Editor project to start with. The original goal of it was really to replace the menu screen completely with a block-based interface, a block-based UI that would allow you to manage both classic and block-based menus. Now that was a pretty ambitious scope and it never actually managed to land even in the Gutenberg plugin. It's always been behind this experiments flag and it was going to be very difficult, mainly because saving classic menus back to their original format but managing them in a block-based UI came with a ton of backwards compatibility problems. You can imagine how long people have been customizing the menu screen and trying to replicate those customizations in a block-based UI that has nothing to do with that menu screen is well nigh impossible, or at least very, very difficult. And that's why I believe it never got out of the experimental stage. So in the run up to WordPress 5.9, the navigation block itself had a change or a pivot in direction where it now had to save its items, its content to a navigation post type. And as a result of that, the navigation editor project pretty much completely stalled and because it was broken. The whole architecture of it was broken underneath. And since then, it hasn't been revived. So here's how I see things going forward with this project. Firstly, Matthias Ventura, who is the overall project lead of the Gutenberg project, has suggested that in fact we might like to explore sort of a focused editing mode for block-based menus only. Now this differs from the navigation editor screen in that it wouldn't cater for classic menus at all. It would simply be a focused way of editing block-based menus. And this is quite similar actually to the way we can focus in on template parts right now. So if I drop into the site editor here, and wait for it to load because I'm on a slow connection today. And if we go to the header template part here, and we click the drop down here, we can say edit header small dark. And then if we click that, it drops us into this isolated editing mode. And you'll see I've got no other blocks here now. It's just the ones for my header template part where I can edit these items in isolation. And I think what Matthias is proposing and the feedback we've been getting is actually it'd be great if we could do the same thing but for navigation blocks in particular. So you'd be able to drop in, you have to click on the navigation menu and then drop into it and you'd be able to edit that completely in isolation from the site editor and possibly even from the navigation block itself. And that would be really, really great for a number of reasons. The primary use case I can see is the need to be able to edit and have a safe space to explore creation of menus. So the example I'm always using now when I'm talking about this is imagine an e-commerce site. And on that e-commerce site, you've got this primary navigation. Now, as you run up to Black Friday, you think, oh, it might be good to have a different variation on this menu that points me towards the Black Friday sale. So you think I'd like to prepare that in advance because I want to make sure I can test it and that kind of thing. And actually, when you try and do that, you realize that in order to do that, you have to edit your navigation in the site editor, in the header of your site. So any change is going to go live immediately. So that's not going to work. And then you try and think, oh, well, maybe I can create it in a post in a separate navigation block. But then your workflows become very confusing and inconsistent. And there is no safe space for exploring the creation of navigation menus at the moment with the block-based system, and that's not really good enough. So with this isolated editor, we should be able to achieve that. Now, coming back to the navigation editor screen, which is the purpose of this video, I see it that it's unlikely to be revived in its current form. I can't see any reason that we need to save navigations back to classic and or replace the menu screen. I think it's probably okay that classic themes remain with the current menu screen and continue to use that as was, and block-based themes come along with the new block-based paradigm and use the navigation block in any such isolated editors that we might develop. I also can't see any use cases being put forward for continuing the development of the navigation editor project. That said, I can imagine it being there being a requirement to be able to sort of import your classic menus and use them in block themes. And indeed, we've already got that to an extent in the navigation block because you can do that already. So at the moment, unless we have significant new feedback from the community and from contributors saying we need this navigation editor to be able to replace the menu screen and allow us to edit everything in blocks and save back to classic menus, then I think it's probably not going to be a project that we continue pursuing in its current guise. So was it a complete waste of time? The answer is no, it wasn't, because actually with many of these things, a lot of the work that went into it has been reused, not only in the navigation block itself, but also it encouraged the creation of the REST API endpoints for menus and many other UI enhancement that has since percolated out and spread out across the rest of the editor. So it was actually a really valuable project in its own right and helped to really push forward the navigation block as well. So I don't think there's any real shame in saying that this project will be discontinued in the future. Decision hasn't been made yet, but I can see that probably coming down the track soon. And what we'll do instead is continue to explore an isolated editor mode for navigation menus, which would be really, really powerful and allow us to address the feedback that's coming in from everyone out there for WordPress 5.9. We are listening, and we're definitely trying to make the navigation block and the menus experience with block themes much, much better. So I hope this clears up the current state of the navigation editor project. Remember that I am only one person. I am not the oracle on I have no decision-making powers over this project. I'm just telling you what I'm observing at the moment and what we can possibly expect in the future. I'd be really interested to hear your comments or feedback on the navigation editor screen if you've ever tried it, or if you think there's a good use case for having a block-based UI to edit classic menus. I'd certainly love to hear about it in the comments. Also, if you found this video useful or any of my other videos, please be sure to like and subscribe. It really, really helps. It helps the channel move forward. So please consider doing that. I'd be really, really grateful. Okay, thanks very much for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye.